Join me for another day in our city of dreams!
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 video games that came back from the dead. For this list, we'll be showcasing games that for one reason or another were largely abandoned or ignored by players, but which made impressive comebacks. Were you around during the early days of these games? Are there any others we missed? Share your thoughts in the comments. Number 10. Assassin's Creed Unity.
For now, we'd like you to experience a small sample. This should help you understand our struggle.
Games launch with bugs all the time, but the technical issues in Assassin's Creed Unity were so prevalent that Ubisoft had to do damage control. Free DLC and games were given to players, and Ubisoft altered how frequent it would churn entries out. Though the issues were eventually ironed out, the widespread nature of them gave Unity a pretty poor reputation. However, in 2019, things started to change. When a fire caused immense damage to the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, its digital version in Unity was used as a blueprint for reconstruction efforts. Artist Caroline Muse had spent 2 years recreating the landmark, so it was fairly accurate. Ubisoft donated 500,000 euros to the cause and made Unity free to download, changing public perception. Number 9. RuneScape. RuneScape is one of the most important MMORPGs of all time, and we'd still say that even if it hadn't made a comeback. Released in 2001, RuneScape enjoyed some solid years with developer Jagex constantly supporting it. However, the player base eventually began to dip. Though it didn't exactly die, it wasn't nearly as popular as it had once been. In 2013, Jagex released Old School RuneScape, a return to basics that used a separate server. Banking on nostalgia was the right call, as this version brought a lot of players back. Additionally, any additions or changes are voted on by the community. It saw another slight burst in popularity in 2018 when both versions were ported to mobile devices.
Give over! You got something to...
Number 8. Warframe. Free-to-play games can be tricky to get right for a variety of reasons, which developer Digital Extremes is more than familiar with. During Warframe's closed beta and leading up to its 2013 launch, the studio found it hard to garner significant attention. Free-to-play games already had a negative connotation, and the game's player base was small enough to cause worry. However, it's this player base that ended up saving it. Those that did play Warframe were very passionate, and Digital Extremes relied on their feedback to improve the game. Despite some mediocre reviews, the team kept working on it, with positive word of mouth bringing more players in. It very easily could have come and gone, but the studio's dedication helped it become a juggernaut.
Together, we can bring the Prime Vanguard back.
Number 7. Destiny 2. The original Destiny didn't necessarily have the strongest launch, but through constant support and several expansions, developer Bungie ended things on a high note. Then came Destiny 2. Although the story was much stronger, it had a similar problem of not having nearly enough endgame content to keep players around. Considering, like the original, it was meant to offer a giant shared online universe, that was a problem. What saved it was its third DLC expansion, 2018's Forsaken. It was truly massive, adding in new story content, a new raid, its first dungeon, more weapons and gear, and an addicting mode called Gambit. Not only that, but Forsaken also arrived alongside a patch that fixed multiple complaints of players, enticing many to return. Number 6. Sea of Thieves. For anyone who still laments the glory days of Rare on the N64, you should really check out Sea of Thieves. The pirate simulator launched in 2018, and one of the most frequent criticisms was its lack of content. While gameplay was solid, there just wasn't enough to do or variety in how you did it. Flash forward a couple of years, and it's now one of the most successful exclusives Microsoft has. Rare began by fixing technical issues before implementing requested changes from players. It kept supporting the game through sizable, free DLC expansions before transitioning to a battle pass in 2020. Players regularly enjoy new story events and modes, making this seafaring adventure one worth embarking on. Number 5. Tom Clancy's The Division.
I've confirmed that your fellow agent Faye Lau has arrived here. Check in with her when you get inside.
When it comes to The Division, its problems were like many others. Set in New York City during a deadly outbreak where crime sprees have skyrocketed, it had a compelling world and gameplay. However, it was another meant-to-be shared world shooter, and there just wasn't enough endgame content to support that. It didn't help that the space was already dominated by Destiny, which The Division got a lot of unfavorable comparisons to. That didn't dissuade Ubisoft though. In addition to adding free post-launch updates, the studio delayed paid expansions so that it could focus on balancing issues and bugs. It then kept releasing updates until the player base was much larger. Number 4. Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn.
Nothing like the feel of Alder's sand.
Except for Alder's wine in your belly.
Being one of the biggest franchises around, everyone was shocked to find that a new Final Fantasy was actually pretty bad. This MMO entry was originally released in 2010 and was almost unanimously criticized for poor gameplay, technical performance, and a terrible interface. It was such a massive disappointment that Square Enix shut down the servers in 2012. Instead of accepting the failure, it began again. With a new team in charge and a new game engine, it fixed all the issues found in the original launch. Fans and critics were much more receptive, and the new Final Fantasy XIV became exceptionally profitable for the company. Of course, a mountain of post-release content and expansion packs certainly helped. Number 3. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege.
Mission failed. All friendlies have been neutralized.
It seems Ubisoft has issues launching a game in a good state, but at least it usually manages to course correct. Rainbow Six Siege is one of the most celebrated and financially successful online multiplayer games in recent years. It's hard to imagine a time where it could have ever been considered dead. At launch, criticisms were aimed at its progression system and not enough post-game content. Despite a fun gameplay hook and destructible environments, this resulted in low sales. By pivoting to a games-as-a-service model and releasing multiple free DLC packs over the years, Siege grew exceptionally. Ubisoft also worked with ESL on balancing so it could be played competitively as an esport. Number 2. Cyberpunk 2077. The botched launch of Cyberpunk 2077 will likely be discussed and studied for years to come. Console versions were released with a plethora of bugs, with CD Projekt Red being investigated and sued in the process. Thankfully, the developer has worked very hard to ensure that it isn't all the game is remembered for. With an understanding that it's severely messed up, CD Projekt Red has been consistently implementing patches and updates to address the bevy of problems so many players had with it. We've even made full videos on the changes and improvements over on Mojo Plays. With reception being much more positive, as well as the huge success of the spin-off anime, the studio felt secure to announce an expansion for 2023 as well as a sequel.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. No Man's Sky. The story behind No Man's Sky is almost too insane to believe. Hello Games had us all in the palm of their hands with lofty promises of a game unlike any we'd ever experienced. But then, the game was released. Not only was gameplay repetitive, but the universe, which sounded mightily impressive pre-launch, was empty. It likely felt that way because there were multiple promised features missing. Needless to say, players weren't too thrilled. However, what began as a cautionary tale is now a huge success story. Hello Games has released several free updates, most of which have included extreme changes to content. These days, No Man's Sky is much closer to what was promised and a genuine joy to play.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.